Australia's first large-scale great white shark tagging project. The team's aim was to tag adult great white sharks so they could study their patterns of movement along Australia's coast.
Researchers in 2003 thought they were conducting a routine study on shark behavior when they stumbled upon a nightmare. They tagged a magnificent-looking animal they called Shark Alpha, thinking she was the top of the food chain. Nobody expected this to happen, but her tracking device washed up on a beach with data that made no sense.
When a local fisherman hooked a 550-pound mako shark on his line, the rest of the massive shark's body had apparently been devoured by an even larger and unidentified ocean predator.
It recorded a massive temperature jump and a high-speed dive into the abyss. It is not that simple, though, because the numbers suggest a hunter that makes the great white look like a snack. Get ready for a shocking reveal. Ghostly shadows off the coast. In the vast and churning waters off the coast of Western Australia, a team of dedicated marine biologists set out on what they thought was a standard mission. The year was 2003, and the energy on the research vessel was high. They were part of a major program designed to track the movements of apex predators. Their star subject was a healthy, powerful female great white shark measuring 9 feet long. She was a magnificent-looking animal with no marks on her and a sleek gray body that spoke of pure power. The lead researcher, Dave Riggs, and his team managed to place a satellite tag on her dorsal fin perfectly. This was a sophisticated piece of equipment meant to record water temperature, depth, and light levels for several months. For starters, everything seemed to be going exactly as planned. The shark, whom we can call Shark Alpha, was behaving like a typical great white. She patrolled the southern coastline, likely hunting for seals and enjoying her status as the queen of the waves. The team was looking forward to a treasure trove of data that would explain how these giants navigate the vastness of the ocean. Great white sharks are usually solitary hunters, and seeing a 9-foot specimen in such good health was a treat for the scientists. They watched her swim away into the blue, confident that her tag would tell her story over the coming months. But here is the catch. Only 4 months into the study, the tag unexpectedly popped up on a beach. It washed ashore just a couple of miles from where they had first encountered Shark Alpha. This was confusing because the tag was programmed to stay attached for much longer. Maybe it was just a mechanical failure or a fluke of nature. However, when the researchers retrieved the device and started downloading the information, the mood in the lab shifted from curiosity to absolute dread. The data on the screen looked like something out of a horror movie. The numbers told a story of a sudden and violent event that occurred in the middle of the ocean. 1 minute, Shark Alpha was swimming in water that was about 46 degrees Fahrenheit, which is normal for that depth. Then, in a split second, the temperature sensor on the tag spiked to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. This was not a slow rise. It was an instant jump of 32 degrees. To make matters even weirder, the depth sensor showed that the tag began a massive plunge. It did not just sink slowly like a piece of trash, it was pulled down at an incredible speed, reaching a depth of 1,900 feet. This was a power dive straight into the dark heart of the ocean. The only logical explanation for that temperature jump was that the tag was now inside the stomach of another living creature. Shark Alpha had been ambushed and swallowed by something else. But what could possibly eat a 9-foot great white shark? We are talking about an animal the size of a small car, equipped with rows of serrated teeth and millions of years of predatory evolution. To be taken out so cleanly and quickly was unheard of. The tag remained at those crushing depths for 8 days, with the temperature staying a steady 78 degrees. This confirmed that the predator was digesting its meal while patrolling the deep water of the continental shelf. Finally, after more than a week, the tag was excreted and floated back to the surface. The news of this super predator case spread like wildfire through the scientific community and the public. People were whispering about sea monsters and prehistoric beasts returning from the grave. The mystery of what swallowed Shark Alpha became an obsession for anyone who followed the wonders of the deep. But the data was hiding a secret even the experts could not explain. Deep-sea data of doom. When scientists look at a digital fingerprint like the one left by Shark Alpha, they do not see monsters. They see patterns in biology. The 78-degree temperature was the most important clue they had. Yeah, about that. Most fish are cold-blooded, meaning their bodies stay the same temperature as the water around them. If a giant squid or a common fish had eaten the tag, the temperature would have dropped as it went deeper into the cold water. But 78 degrees is warm. It is not as hot as a human or a whale, which usually sit around 98 degrees, but it is definitely warmer than the surrounding ocean. This specific temperature pointed directly to a very special kind of biology. What most people do not realize is that great white sharks are actually regionally warm-blooded. They have a complex web of blood vessels called the ret mirabile that allows them to heat up their core, their brain, and their stomach. This ability is a massive advantage because it allows them to hunt in cold water and digest their food much faster. When the team compared the tag data to the known internal temperatures of large great whites, it was a perfect match. 78 degrees is exactly how warm a big shark's stomach gets when it is working hard to break down a meal. So, the predator was almost certainly another shark, but the scale of the attack was still hard to wrap the brain around. To swallow a 9-foot shark, the attacker would have to be a true titan. The researchers did some math and estimated that the super predator would have to be at least 16 feet long and weigh over 4,000 pounds. And get this, that was a conservative estimate. Many believe the attacker was closer to 20 feet long, a size that is rarely seen by human eyes but known to exist in the shadows. The dive data also fit the profile of a massive great white. These sharks are known to make vertical migrations into the twilight zone, sometimes going deeper than 3,000 feet. A 20-foot shark, after eating a huge meal like a 9-foot cousin, would naturally head into the deep to avoid being disturbed while it digested all that protein and fat. The movements recorded by the tag after the attack were slow and deliberate, matching the swimming style of a dominant giant patrolling its territory. It paints a terrifying picture of the ocean's hierarchy. Even a 9-foot shark, which we consider a monster, is just a middle manager in a world ruled by unseen CEOs of the abyss. This revelation was chilling because it meant the ultimate hunter was itself on the menu. While some people were relieved to hear it was just another shark, others were not so sure. The idea of a cannibalistic giant lurking just off the coast was almost more frightening than a mythical kraken. It meant that the rules of the ocean were much more brutal than we had originally thought. There was no safety in being an apex predator if a bigger version of yourself was waiting in the dark to take you out. This ecology of fear is a real thing in the animal kingdom, where the presence of a super predator changes the behavior of everyone else in the water. The scientists were confident in their shark theory, but a new set of grisly events halfway across the world was about to introduce a second suspect that was just as capable of spreading terror. Something was moving in the dark that should not exist. Black and white sea wolves. Just as the world was getting used to the idea of cannibal sharks, a series of disturbing events occurred off the coast of South Africa. 5 great white sharks washed up on the beaches, and they were all missing the same thing. Their livers were gone. In some cases, the heart was also missing, but the rest of the shark was mostly untouched. This was bizarre, because sharks do not usually leave a meal half-finished. Even more interesting was the way the livers were removed. The cuts were clean and precise, almost as if someone had used a surgical tool. This was not the work of a messy eater, it was the work of a specialist. The crazy part is that the suspects were not other sharks, they were orcas, also known as monster whales. Orcas are the largest members of the dolphin family and are incredibly intelligent. They hunt in organized pods and use teamwork to take down prey that no other animal would dare touch. In South Africa, 2 specific male orcas named Port and Starboard became famous for their shark hunting skills. They figured out a way to flip a great white onto its back, which triggers a state called tonic immobility. Basically, the shark becomes paralyzed and cannot move or breathe properly. Once the shark is helpless, the orcas bite into the soft skin near the fins and squeeze the liver out like a tube of toothpaste. The liver of a shark is huge and full of energy-rich fats called squalene. For an orca, this is like eating a giant stick of butter. It is the most efficient meal in the ocean. This discovery changed the way we look at orcas and sharks. For a long time, we thought great whites had no enemies. But the presence of port and starboard caused a massive shift in the local environment. Tagged sharks that had lived in those waters for years suddenly fled. They did not just move to the next bay. They left the entire region for months at a time. This created a ghost town where the predators had become the hunted. A drone video later captured a group of orcas systematically chasing and taking down a great white in shallow water, proving that these whales are more than capable of handling the ocean's most feared fish. It was a spectacular display of power and intelligence that made everyone wonder if an orca was the one that got Shark Alpha back in 2003. However, when you look at the facts, the orca theory starts to fall apart for this specific case. First, there is the temperature issue. Orcas are mammals, and their internal bodies are much warmer than 78 degrees. If an orca had eaten that tag, the reading would have been nearly 100 degrees. Second, orcas do not swallow 9-foot sharks whole. They are picky eaters who take the liver and leave the rest. The tag from Shark Alpha was swallowed along with the shark and stayed inside for 8 days, which matches the slow digestion of a cold-blooded or regionally warm-blooded fish. Also, orcas have to breathe air. A 1,900-foot dive for 8 days straight is physically impossible for a mammal that needs to surface every few minutes. The Shark Alpha mystery was something different. It was not a surgical strike by a whale, it was a total consumption by a monster of its own kind. The ocean was about to reveal its most surgical predator. Ancient shadows in the canyon. With the orca theory debunked, people started looking for even more extreme explanations. Some pointed to the location where Shark Alpha vanished, which was near the Bremer Canyon. This is a massive underwater valley where the ocean floor drops away into total darkness. These canyons are famous for being the home of giant and colossal squid. The colossal squid is a true monster that can reach lengths of 45 feet and has tentacles armed with rotating hooks. It is easy to imagine a 9-foot shark swimming over the edge of the canyon and being snatched by a mass of tentacles reaching up from the blackness. The 1,900-foot dive would make sense if a squid was dragging its prey down to the depths to eat it in peace. It is a terrifying thought, but it does not fit the data either. See, squids are invertebrates, and they are completely cold-blooded. Their bodies are the same temperature as the icy water in the deep. There is no way a squid's stomach could reach 78 degrees Fahrenheit. It is just biologically impossible. This led some people to jump to the most sensational theory of all, the megalodon. This was a prehistoric shark that grew to 60 feet long and was the ancestor of the modern great white. It has been officially extinct for millions of years, but some people believe a small population might have survived in deep canyons like the one in Australia. A 60-foot shark would have no problem swallowing a 9-foot shark in one bite. It would have the warm-blooded system to match the temperature, and it would live at the exact depths recorded by the tag. Do you think there are even bigger sharks than 20 feet lurking in the deep canyons? Are we truly safe on the surface, or is it just a matter of time before another giant shows up? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe for more deep-sea mysteries.